Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to call our meeting into order. Finance New Orleans Board of Trustees meeting roll call. Chair Edgar Chase IV.
Present.
Vice Chair Andronika Morris. Secretary Treasurer G. Wade Wooten.
Present.
Board Member Giselle Johnson Banks. Board Member Charles H. Brown.
Present.
Board Member Stephen M. Smith. Board Member Hunter Thomas.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Mr. Chase, can you see my screen?
Did we lose the chair? Hello? Have I been on mute all this time?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I do apologize. Sorry about that. Okay,
No
what I was saying was we have no old business and we will be moving on to the consent agenda items for approval, starting with the September. Go ahead. Starting with the September 27th, 2021 finance meeting minutes, as well as the August 17th Finance and Investment Committee meeting minutes.
I have a correction, Mr. Chairman, on the September 27, 21 Finance New Orleans Board of Trustee minutes meetings. On item 6, Finance New Orleans Program Committee report, it calls for myself, a board member, request a legal counsel a copy of the closing documents, specifically Chef Mature and Gentili. It should have also included the McDonough 19, which is the 3 projects that we have approved. And specifically, it should state that I'm asking not for all of the closing documents, but only for something titled a closing disclosure form. It's just a 5-page document. And that's the only correction that I have.
So noted. Thank you.
With that additional correction, Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the September 27th and the August 17th Finance Investment Committee meeting minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
I guess I'll second the motion, which I guess technically should include the minor modification suggested by Chuck.
Okay, and we'll go for a vote. All in favor for approval of the August 17th and September 27th Financing Committee meetings, along with the addition of the modification Mr. Brown has stated. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We're going to move forward with the August 11th program and committee meeting minutes, as well as the August 23rd 2021 Programs and Committee Special Meeting Minutes.
Chair, this is Andronika. I just wanted to let everybody know I was here officially, and I move.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Sorry to be late. I move approval of the minutes for the program committee meeting.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes
On it.
for the I
All right.
didn't hear you. Hearing none, the
Just-
minutes for the programs and committee meeting minutes have been approved. We're moving on to the new business, and I'm gonna let you take that over, Naja, as we're starting with Christopher Park.
Yes, sir. And may it please the board, we have two resolutions. We have a sale resolution and the approval of the pilot. We've received a revised version today, and I have legal counsel on the line that can explain to that revision, just so that we're all on the same page. And I will put the revised resolution before you for Christopher Park. Derek, please elaborate on the revised version, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Naj. Board, if it meets your pleasure, if you can, Naj, please, or whoever's controlling the screen, please, move to page 2 of the resolution. Thank you. So in terms of the revision for this resolution for Christopher Park project, the only revision is in the second paragraph, page 2. We've updated who received the application from. So it's been updated to reflect the Christopher Park LP is who the application was received on behalf of. So that is the only update to the resolution that you'll find for this project. And we've also added, of course, the appendix, which is the form lease to the end of the resolution. And you'll see that reflected on all resolutions that we present to the board today.
Mr. Chairman, are we on?
Yes.
Are we on item 4, new business, or are we on the special?
No, we're on item 4, new business, and as you see, the Christopher Park, and then there's the Brown Dairy. What I would like to do is take each one, if we can, and get that approved. I think we were just going over the only resolution change for Christopher Park was the naming and oh, wow, you just said it and it's drawing a blank in my mind, but it's 2 minor tweaks to a resolution that we had approved before in the last prior board meeting. So if we take this one and everybody agrees we can vote on this one, then we'll move down each path to discuss each particular project separately.
I have a request, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go for it.
Okay. Again, I'm the senior on the board now. Tell you why, and I will explain everything. I'm requesting the closing disclosure form, which is only a 5-page form that describes in detail the critical aspects of a mortgage loan. And for an interim time, even if it's a minute, we take possession of ownership of these pilot programs or pilot projects. But this form, simple form, it replaced the HUD 1. It includes the purchase price, the loan fees, the interest rates, but most so important is that it gives the estimated real estate taxes that are being forgiven. And those are our ad valorem taxes, and we are custodians of the ad valorem taxes in this instance, which gives, the municipal purpose of ad valorem taxes. It goes for police and fire, public library, board of liquidation, and city debt, which controls all of our debt, the Parkway and Park Commission, the capital improvement, streets. So we're custodian of those funds. And that closing disclosure form gives us that information on what we are forgiving. It also includes the closing costs and other expenses, but I'm mentioning all of that to mention to you that, and the board, and I hope they are in agreement with me, that when we approve a pilot, we sort of play it off as though it's just a little small thing, but it is a big thing to a developer. And I've been in real estate for a long, long time. And when we take a project, a commercial loan, especially if it has 4% low income tax credits, that's 4% cash. That's a credit enhancement tool to a development, one. Secondly, if we have an ad valorem tax that's being forgiven, that's roughly 10%. If you look at whatever your property that you own, 10% is probably what the premium that you're paying for property, for ad valorem taxes. And that is a low value. That value is expressed by Errol Williams in the assessor's office. And it's normally not the real appraised value. When you take into consideration replacement costs, income approach to value, and market approach to value. So I'm saying all that to say that now we're talking about 14%. Any lender would like a commercial loan with 14% down payment in cash. And that's basically what we're doing. But we're giving up a lot. We're giving up fire. We're giving up children. The largest portion of our taxes, of course, is the Orleans Parish School Board, the Audubon Zoo, Surgeon Water Board. So we're giving that up and we're custodians of that. That's why I'm asking for that closing disclosure form, that 5-page document on all transactions that we issue pilots on. And that is my request. And I'd like to see that request honored. I do have some other comments, and I guess it's best that I take those comments up now. I've made that request. We have a review committee. That review committee is made up of course, our executive director, along with other professionals that we have that review these pilots. If we're going to move as a city, move up as a city, we have incentives. We'd like to, I'd like it as one board member, only as one, to see these projects as diverse as possible, like the one that we just approved. That's a beautiful project, Christopher, and the one that we're going to take up. It is there's diversity in that project, and I mentioned at the very last meeting how happy I was about the diversity there. But it can be the same diversity expressed by that committee. We can't require the DBE like the city does, but we can encourage these developers, especially some of those developers that are coming from out of town, developing here in the city of New Orleans. But committee, I'm speaking specifically to you all that approve these. please encourage diversity as much as possible with some of the pilots, because that developer will respect your encouraging diversity, because they're looking at a 14% down payment on a commercial development. And there are many professionals that can be used. I'm talking about appraisers. I'm talking about real estate, who's buying the property, the real estate transaction, the insurance on these properties, the closing attorneys, the architects, the trustees, the bond counsels, the co-bond counsels. There can be involvement on a diverse basis if they are encouraged to provide that diversity. So those two things. One was my request for those documents, closing form documents. And my reason is because I'm hoping that we have diversity. And I've been informed by that there is diversity on some of the pilots that have already been improved, and that makes me happy. I'm not concerned about who the developer is. I am concerned about the diversity of the project. And I yield to my request and my summarization of why I made the request, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Board Member Brown, and I do appreciate all your comments and recommendations, as well as your institutional knowledge of what's behind a lot of these transactions, especially dealing with pilots. Damon and Byron or Naj, if we can look into those closing documents, those 5 documents Mr. Brown is requesting, let's see if we can get those to him. I know he prefers hard copy documents that we can get to him. So let me know how I can help fulfill that and get that to him. If there's no other comments, go ahead.
I was just going to explain for the board, we do document all the information that Mr. Brown was mentioning a minute ago. It is a part of the underwriting process that we do and that we present through the programs committee and then ultimately through the board. So each one of those projects has gone through a lot of scrutiny, a lot of checks and balances before we sign off on it. We've only done pilots so far, except for the project that we're about to talk about. And in that situation, we do have DBE standards that we push the developers to meet. In addition to those DBE developers, those DBE standards, we're also working with a number of developers, lead developers that would normally fall into the DBE category, but these companies are leading their own projects. And one of them you're going to see before you today. So I just want to reinforce that the staff understands our directives, and we will get you that information, Mr. Brown. But we close out every project, and we require a long list of documents before we allow a project to close or before we even bring it to you. So all of the projects that you're going to see today, we've gone through quite a bit of due diligence. We've waited for the developers to bring back a long list of information. We're technically or normally the last money in, meaning we wait for everything else to be underwritten before we approve that pilot and before we present it to the board, just to make sure that the developers can deliver on at least the pre-development aspect of the projects, which is very critical. And so not all developers are able to get through that process smoothly or have the wherewithal to get through it. So we do have checks and balances in place to make sure that we're dealing with quality projects as well as quality sponsors. But we will get you the information, Mr. Brown. Thank you.
And thank
Other
you.
board members might also want that information, especially on the program committee.
Yeah, there is I'm sorry, Naz, there is a file that is shared with staff and board members. And so we can resend that. So you'll have it at your fingertips. But we have a file of information on all the projects that we've closed. We have a spreadsheet that we keep track of all of the projects post-closing because these deals are on the books for 40 years. So one of the arrangements, part of this arrangement is that the property comes under our possession, if you will, for a 40-year period, unless something else happens with the city, but that's our agreement right now. So we have to manage it over that 40-year period. So it's not like these deals are just coming in the door and we do them and then forget about them. It's quite the opposite, actually. So we have a file of information and we'll make sure the board knows where that is so you can have access to it whenever you need it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Jade, Counselor.
Yes, sir, Mr. Board Member Wooten.
Jade, it's somewhat nitpicky, but I just wanted to run it by you. I'm looking at the resolution. And as far as the authorizations for signing documents, et cetera, and it says the pattern is chairman, vice chairman, and or secretary of the board, right? Secretary makes sense because that's an officer. I'm thinking these need to be referred to in officer positions, not board positions. So shouldn't it be like the president, vice president, and or secretary?
And it currently, I'm sorry, I'm
sorry.
Actually not in front of my computer, Wade. So can you repeat again what it says?
Yes. So basically, I'll read one random segment out. It says the chairman, vice chairman, and or secretary of the board are hereby authorized and directed, et cetera, right? The the reference to chairman and vice chairman are related to their positions on the board.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it should be officers though. Shouldn't it be like president, vice president, and secretary?
Are you looking at the bond resolution or the pilot?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm looking at let's see, 35 million. It's the Christopher Parks.
Yeah, it's okay.
Resolution.
You're looking at the bond resolution. Okay, we'll work. We'll definitely work with. You're right. We'll work with Wayne's team just to make that adjustment. But you're right.
And I would probably it probably applies to all of them. My guess is you were consistent. So it's a nitpicky issue, but you know.
The Christopher Park one has an additional resolution because it's a bond finance project.
Right.
So that bond resolution is going to be one that you won't see on the others. The others, which are pilots, those should have the accurate title, officer title. So we'll just double back. This is the first one, and I'm sure they just overlooked it on the bond resolution. But it's a non-substantive change.
Exactly.
So I don't, we can, when you make the motion, we can just make it subject to your
by all means
for your adjustments. Good catch.
Just change the template. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Catch.
And I'm sorry, this is Deetra. Naj, can you click on the previous screen, the Christopher, the pilot resolution, just to ensure that we have the consistency, if it's the correct officers, and then we can ensure that the only motion has to be made except for on the bond resolution and not all of the pilots that we have today.
And I was looking at specifically the resolution one for sale.
Exactly. That's the bond resolution. That's separate from all of the other pilots. Can we just take a look at the pilot resolution, which is the first one we discussed?
Yeah. This is the one before us now. And we do have a voter tally. We have board chair, board secretary, treasurer. For the signature blocks. And when we get to the lease agreement, we have. Yes.
Well, just for the resolution, I think he was asking about the resolution.
Yeah, I
Can
see
you
the
go
same.
to the resolution?
Yeah, I see the same issue in the resolution. Because it talks about chair, vice chair, and then me and secretary treasurer.
Yeah,
Right.
well, Wade, let us double check. If you'll give us some flexibility on that. I want to go back because I don't know what those titles are referred to off top in your bylaws. So let me go back and double check.
Good point. Yeah,
it
I
needs
just
to
figured
line
let's
up
get it
with the
right.
bylaws.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. So do we need a motion? Where do we stand? Or discussion?
Yeah, we would
Sorry.
need if there are no more questions, we would need a motion for the resolution, just for Christopher Park, each one.
So I'll make a resolution.
Yes, it would be each one, the pilot separate, and then the bond resolution for Christopher Park would be the next one.
Okay. So makes
That's
sense.
correct.
Makes sense. Okay, so I'll make a resolution to approve the what's entitled the agenda resolution for sale for Christopher Park, subject to advice from counsel for the Finance Authority of New Orleans to confirm exactly how the title should read, which is a minor, non-substantive edit.
Mr. Chairman, will the closing disclosure form be issued on each of those projects? My request. Council?
Hey,
I
Mr.
think we
Brown.
want to do the
this is
resolution
Jane.
separately first.
Well, let me just answer his question. So, Mr. Brown, I did, after our conversation today, I did send you an example of the closing statement for one of the prior deals, and you'll see that it only includes the financial closing for the pilot. You mentioned earlier, that we take possession is, I think, what was your word. We do take title of the property, but we do not assume any of the mortgages or other financial terms that the developer has, entered into as part of the development. We acquire title and we simultaneously lease the property back to the developer. So chip only and title only. So I just wanted to make sure we were clear about that. But the closing statement, because of that, the closing statement will not include the settlement statement. The closing form that you're referencing does not include the full transaction. It's only
That's why I'm asking for it.
Yeah, it is only going to include. So I just wanted to make sure that your request, you want to see the closing settlement document for the entire project. Is that what you're saying? Not just the pilot?
Okay, I'll do it again. The closing disclosure form, it's a simple form on all real estate transactions. It is a 5-page form that describes in detail critical aspects of the program, of the project, including the estimated real estate taxes of which we are custodians of. That is why I'm asking for the project form, closure, disclosure form, 5 pages.
So, Mr. Brown,
Mr.
Brown, there are a number of financial closings that happen simultaneously on these projects. So I guess I'm just trying to get clarity. Are you asking for all of the closing statements on each one of the projects? Or are you asking for the closing statement as it relates to the pilot?
I'm asking for the closing disclosure form, the 5-page form that describes in detail the real estate taxes that we are forgiving. And it should include all of the items that I just said. There's no HUD 1 any longer. That form has been replaced. And I'm giving you what that form is, and I'm making a request for it. And I don't think a developer would have any problem with providing that. It's only I'm making the request for it.
Mr. Brown, if you want to see the taxes that are being forgiven, that's included in our underwriting analysis. So again, that's part of the forms that we have and we go through before we approve any project. Our underwriting team looks at what taxes should be paid on a property if this property were to be market rate. And then we adjust that tax rate based on a formula that we develop with the city. And that's a part of our base CEA with the city. So that formula is driven by city policy. And it comes at a discount to where the market rate of taxes should be. So when we look at the deal, we make sure, because we have to, by law, stay within certain parameters certain parameters for every project. So that information we have is a part of our analysis. What council is trying to say is we're not a party to those other documents. We can make requests. We can make requests to the developers, but we're not party to those documents, so we don't keep them in our own closing file, and that's all that she's communicating.
I understand what she said to me earlier. We discussed it, and it's a simple request of the developer to provide that form, and it will include the professionals that have been used on that transaction. And I was encouraging the staff and especially the committee to encourage them to diversify these projects as much as possible. I'll give an example. We're going to do a $70 million project. $70 million is coming into the city of New Orleans in this community. Before that project is developed, those proceeds have to be set aside. Somebody's got to handle that. A gig broker. It's called a guaranteed investment contract broker. Mr.
Brown.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mr. Brown. So some of these deals are bond deals, yes, and some of them are going to be direct placements, and that's what we've seen so far.
Private placements. Private placements. A bond. Yeah, private placements. I got you. I understand.
So these deals don't have as many professionals on them, but we can get you the list of professionals that we have. We keep count of that as well. We'll reshare that with the board. That was a part of the original approval packages. We'll reshare that information. And then if any information not in there, we can make requests to the developers. But we do have standards, the DB standards for the developers. And we are going to push them to meet those standards. And we're developing other ways, other programs that will allow for the developers to engage in the type of activity that you're talking about. So we're going to get you that information, and we'll share with you the past deals, and for these upcoming deals as they close, we'll get that information to the board as well.
Thank you so much. That's the way our city will grow. That's the way our city will grow, with professionals, not only on the construction end, but on the professional end.
Yes, we do that immediately.
Thank you. Also, Mr. Chairman, in regards to Christopher Park, the staff was tasked from the vice chair to figure out or confirm whether residents who had lived or occupied homes at Christopher Park were allowed to return. I have Ms. Dion Jordan on the line to provide some insight on where we are with that. If it meets your pleasure, Ms. Moore.
Interject really quickly. So we've got a motion on the floor. I don't think it's been seconded. Ordinarily, you get a second and then we have the discussion. Or, I mean, obviously I yield to the chair, but I'm just trying to see where
we are.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That did I cut out?
Yes.
Did someone second your motion?
I don't think so, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so let's going back to, okay. So there's been a motion for approval of the resolution for the sale, along with the, I guess it's not amendments that council will reflect to make sure we have the right titles for the board members to sign. Right. Do we have to do a roll call vote, Nash?
I'm Chair.
Well, no, we wanted to be.
I'm sorry.
Well, okay, so I was gonna say, did we get a second? And I thought we were gonna have a discussion if we did get a second, or.
I thought we had.
I agree.
I agree.
So, Andronika, I agree with you. So the discussion technically can continue.
It's been properly moved.
Board members, I'm sorry. I wanted to offer one more thing that we need to just be clear about today. So we still need to have a public hearing for the final resolution in front of the entire board. We've done public hearings for the other projects, and we had that last Friday. But for this particular project, there needs to be a public hearing in front of you before the final resolution can be approved. So council, correct me if I'm wrong, we can still do the pilot, but the bond resolution cannot be today.
Hello, can you hear me?
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Wayne.
Hello?
We can hear you, Wayne. Go ahead.
Okay, I had emailed you and Derek, and I had previously reported at the underwriting committee that in connection with the bonds, there are two public hearings, one of which is the public hearing that's required under the public trust law before the sale, which is a public hearing conducted by the full board in a meeting in accordance with the public meetings law, whereby the board would reference that in the notice of intent to issue and sell these bonds, there would be a meeting established at which if a petition was submitted by 5% of the voters in Orleans Parish to object to this particular bond issue, then the bond issue would be deferred and would have to be submitted to the voters for approval. That information was contained in the notice of intention for for the board meeting on the 8th for the board meeting that was scheduled, I believe, this Thursday. It was rescheduled to today. We published a supplemental notice so that in accordance with that notice, all the board would need to do is recognize that in accordance with that notice of intention, that the board is open for any public comment. And if a petition were to be received as I described, then this bond issue would be deferred. So obviously at this point, if there's no petition submitted to the Finance Authority of New Orleans to object to the bond issue, the board may proceed in accordance with the notice of sale to sell the bonds after it closes that public trust hearing, recognizing that there was no petition submitted objecting to the bond issue. That's the Public Trust Act public hearing. There's a second public hearing that was also scheduled for which the board did not need to meet in open in a public meeting in accordance with the public meetings law, but could have been a public hearing conducted by staff, and that is a TEFRA public hearing that's required by the Internal Revenue Code for tax-exempt bonds to be issued for this particular development that is to be followed by a submission of the minutes of that public hearing to the mayor of the city of New Orleans for the mayor to approve, so that thereafter the transcript for the bonds would reflect that the protocols for issuing tax-exempt bonds were fully satisfied, which for which that TEFRA public meeting is an essential sine qua non for issuing such tax-exempt bonds. So at this point, I would simply recommend that the board reflect what I just said and first conduct the public hearing in accordance with the notice of intention under the Public Trust Act. Simply note that no petition was received, and then close that public hearing, and then open up the TEFRA public hearing, at which point the board would, since you're already in session, just simply to note that if anyone has any comments or objections to the issuance of the bond, to so note under the TEFRA public hearing. The minutes of that public hearing would then simply be memorialized and sent over to the mayor for her approval. That's it. I'm sorry, it's not a nutshell, but it's a pretty nice sized coconut, but hopefully the board can get that complete today.
What about the resolution, Wayne? Nothing.
I don't know. I was listening to your comments. I'm not quite sure if I understood what your comments were concerning the provisions for the chairman or vice chairman and secretary to execute any and all documents associated with the bonds. That's typical. I'm not sure if I understood What,
Look, you're the pro in this. My question was, in the past, I've seen it be an issue, but look, I'm no bond lawyer. Is you're referencing to board members in their capacity as officers, i.e. president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, versus their positions, their titles on the board, chairman, vice chair. They may not matter from your perspective. I'm just flagging a potential issue.
wait, I still am not sure if
Hey,
I
Wayne.
understood
Hey,
that.
Wayne. Hey, Wayne. I'm sorry. This is Jade. Wade, we did confirm, we went back and checked the bylaws. The bylaws provide that the officers are referred to as chairman, vice chairman, and secretary.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay,
So make clear then, the resolution need not be amended.
right, that's correct. That's
All right.
correct. So it's
just-
correct as stated.
Frankly, I couldn't understand that comment, Wade. It's been a long.
Well,
And let me just point out something else before you get into your public hearing. So I think what Trustee Brown was referencing is generally in real estate transactions, there are closing statements that contain all the details of all the fees, et cetera, paid at closing. So certainly that's something that is not yet in place because the closing has not yet taken place. But certainly it will be part of the transcript so that once the closing takes place, the transcript is public record so that everyone will see those details. One other matter in connection with the bonds, which have not yet closed, we routinely provide a transcript of all the proceedings, all of the documents, and all the details for this type of financing. Generally, and Chuck, you're the senior member of the board, and you know that on occasion those written transcript exceeded a couple of volumes of dictionaries in terms of sizing. But these days we put it all in a compact disc so that every member of the board, if they would like, can get a disc. But certainly, Finance Authority will receive a disc along with the developer, taxpayers, and other members who will be at the closing table.
yes. There's only one question I have, Dwayne and Jade, and I'm accustomed to on those bond issues that it be executed. And I think I saw reference to our executive director or one of those positions, but I'm accustomed to the chairman of the board and the secretary treasurer, along with maybe the executive director. And maybe I'm reading this wrong, but that's what I'm accustomed to. If our bylaws or something has changed that, then so be it. It's normally a board representative on sales of transactions of bonds.
Well, that's what we have, Chuck. So I'm not sure if your comment is at all at odds with what was said by Jade a moment ago and is agreed to by Mr. Wooten.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, can we move into a session? I mean, can we move into a
public hearing?
Public hearing?
Yes.
I move that we move into a public hearing to execute the necessary public hearing relative to this sale of bonds.
Oh, wait. I'll second it, but I'm not quite sure. I mean, we're already in a public hearing. So Wayne, can you clarify what we're doing?
I just think at this point, Mr. Wooten and Mr. Brown, the chairman simply should ask if there are any members of the public that is in a position to submit a petition objecting to this particular sale. And if not, then the board will move to approve the sale resolution. That's how simple it should be.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I would, Wayne, I would just add to that if the chairman can indicate for the record that he's requesting that for purposes of, the compliance with the required public hearing as that Wayne mentioned, since it is something that's required by law.
Yeah, under the public trust law, trust law first. Then you can move to the TEFRA public hearing. But the public trust law requires that you request, in effect, members of the public to submit that petition. If none submit such a petition, then you move on to sale. And then, following the sale, just note that the public can make comments on the bonds that will be recorded and submitted to the mayor in accordance with the tax code requirements. But let's take one issue first. Let's get rid of the public trust hearing, at which point the chairman simply requests that the members of the public submit comments in accordance with the public trust law. And if they have a petition, to so submit that petition. And if no such petition is submitted, then we will move on to approve the sale of the bonds. So public comment,
Okay.
petition,
So
approval.
I'm sorry, you all, but we still haven't voted on the
Open
actual
motion.
pilot.
right, and I would also want us, before we started voting, to fully discuss the project. We can make the first motion, which is still open, and go into discussion, but to then proceed to start bamming is, I think we're not there yet, because there are still questions that needed to be answered before we can move forward.
Yeah, the actual pilot resolution is what's on the table right now. So perhaps all of the discussion should go around the pilot resolution first, and then we could move into the bond resolution, which is separate.
And Ms. Morris, as we discuss the resolution of the pilot, can you open that discussion, and from there we can go on and tackle that other list?
Correct. So yeah, I think you have to call if we want to. It's been moved and seconded, and now we can go into discussion.
Well, let's go into discussion of the. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I'm opening it back up to you to begin this discussion, because this is coming out of the programs and committee chairs, so you have the information on this one.
Thank you, sir. So I believe one of the questions that we had, and this was at the last committee meeting, the question was answered about the right to return, but there were additional questions posed in the program committee meeting that talk about making sure that this project has passed all of the hurdles that the Housing Authority has, namely if they have SAC approval for this disposition. And I believe Naja indicated that a representative from the Housing Authority, Gian Jordan, is on the phone or on the line to address those questions.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Gian?
Good afternoon. I am on the line. The questions that I was told you were looking for, Andronica, was an answer to the right to return. So you're saying that has been satisfied now?
No, that was part of the question. We answered a part of it, but we were also very expressly talked about SAC approval, whether or not we were told that one of the concerns that I had is that the staff did not know what SAC approval was. They said, Hanno said that all approval had been met. I said, well, after the SAC approval has been met, and they said that they would ask y'all that and let us know.
All right.
And we didn't want to talk about right to return.
I can't answer your right to return question right now. I'll have to go back through a couple of things to make sure we have SAC approval, but I'm pretty sure we do on the project. With regards to the right to return, there is no right to return, because it's my understanding that Christopher Park had 181 units. And of those 181 units, 54 of them were public housing units. All of those public housing units were vacant at the time of Katrina. And they had been vacant actually long before Katrina. So there was never a list established for that, because there were no tenants in those units at the time. Then there was 127 turnkey units, which is part of the rent to own program that Hannah was a part of. Of those 127, 80 of those units were occupied by both potential buyers and homeowners. So 36 of those were for potential buyers. And what the staff did was meet with those individual households one-on-one, and they made a determination of what would happen with those residents, approval. Those residents were offered a Section 8 voucher or a unit in public housing, and also offered the option to go into the Housing Choice Voucher Homeownership Program. They were also offered relocation assistance. And if they had any money that had been in their earned home payment account or their non-routine maintenance account, that money was refunded to them. There were 36 home buyers, as I said at the time. So all of those folks were taken care of. With regards to the 44 homeowners that were that had purchased their property, Hano created an alternative housing plan, which included 5 buyout options for them to purchase for Hano to purchase their homes. Staff met with each of those owners as well, and that was back in 2009. And those houses were appraised. I'm told that most of the appraisals came in at roughly about $40,000. So of the 5 options, they had Hano bought them out, and they got relocation into public housing. One person opted for that. The second option was to do the buyout and then get a housing choice voucher. Nobody opted for that. The third option was to buy out, then take a Section 8 voucher and go into the Section 8 program for home ownership. Nobody opted for that. The fourth option was buy out and then purchase a house at another Hano site, which at that time was Fisher. 19 people opted for that and became homeowners in Fisher. The fifth option was buy out and then become not involved in nothing else, basically. You didn't get any other assistance from Hano as far as any other programs, public housing, Section 8 voucher. 10 people opted for that. There were people that 6 people chose to sell their home to the Road Home program, and another 6 held out, and they got bought out and purchased a house somewhere else in the city. So that makes up all 44 of those buyers. And all of those homeowners were offered relocation assistance. And if they had any issues with their appraisal at the time, they were able to bring in their own appraisal. And at such time, Hano looked at both of those appraisals and made a decision about how much money they would receive in the buyout.
All right, so that answers the question. That's what we had, and people weren't sure. So, Gian, if you can follow up and confirm with everyone that you guys do in fact have SAC approval, despite the fact that this property will not have any deeply affordable units inside of its configuration, allowing any other Hano residents who have vouchers and who have higher incomes can live there. The fact is not going to be able to support former public housing units, residents at the deeply affordable range.
I will look into that, Angelique, and I will get back to you guys.
Okay, because that was the question that we asked the staff at the last program committee meeting. Okay. But we're glad that, because we asked actually about the right to return quite some time ago. I believe we asked this question before Ida. So this is, and this is the question that we wanted to make sure that was addressed and that everything could move forward and that the sale could in fact move forward.
Okay.
Thank you,
So,
Gian.
Mr. Chair. Oh yeah, I was gonna say thank you, Gian. Mr. Chair, that was the thrust of most of our comments during the program committee meeting. We wanted to make sure that we could actually move forward with the sale and that all of those I's were dotted and T's were crossed. So, Commissioner Banks, if you have any, Giselle, if you have anything that you wanted to ask or bring up, and then obviously for the other board members who were not a part of the program committee, are there any other questions?
No, I don't have any questions, Commissioner Morris. Thank you.
What do you
So I think
anticipate
that
being, what do you anticipate being the cost per unit? And after construction, what do you anticipate being the sale price of those units?
So that's a question for staff on the per unit cost, but it's my understanding, Commissioner Brown, these won't be for sale. This is going to be a purely rental project. So it's not going to be home ownership anymore. It's going to be all rental.
Yes, that is correct. Mr. Brown, this is a rental project. And in terms of the cost per unit, we have that information. Derek, please share that number with the board.
Thank you, Damon. Board, if it meets your pleasure, I'll answer your question, Chairman Brown. So in terms of the cost per unit, we are looking at for this project, $263,757 for the cost per unit. And then for the potential rental prices for the project, give me 1 second, get that information now. So the proposed rent of the units are going to range for one bedrooms from $692 to $949.
Not rent, Derek, cost for construction, cost per unit to construct.
He said that already.
Sorry, go ahead, Damon.
No, I was just saying, Board Member Morris, he shared that number, and I believe it was 237, Derek?
$260 and $757 cost per unit to construct.
I'm sorry, Derek, you were a little garbled on my end.
All right, $263,757 cost per unit to construct.
And how much is that per square foot on the anticipated size of the unit?
And you're looking for the cost per square foot, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ah. Madam Chairman, this project did go through the program review committee. Is that correct? Of which that's who we're talking to, the staff of that committee.
Sorry, I was double muted. Yes.
Yes, and Board Member Brown, the excuse me, cost per square foot is $224.16 per square foot.
No comment.
Mr. Brown, do you have any other questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? All right, then we will, Ms. Chair, I would argue, I would say that the discussion is over if you'd like to call the question.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Morris. Going back to the resolution, revised resolution for approval of the pilot. I would entertain a motion of approval.
I think you just have to call the vote, right? Because we already have a motion to approve. And then we went into discussion.
Is that the one
we
with
did
Wade?
do it.
That's correct. And that was my
Yeah.
question. Naj or Jade, Ms. Brown, do we have to do a roll call vote, or should we do a roll call vote? It's a better question.
Sure. For purposes of these resolutions, you should call the roll so that it can be properly indicated on the resolution.
Right. So Naj, if we can call the roll.
Sure. 1 second. So let me make sure we have all the names on here correctly. All right. Edgar Chase the fourth,
Yes, aye.
Andronika Morris,
Yes.
G. Wade Wooten, Wade,
I believe we lost Wade a few moments ago.
okay. Charles Brown,
With the closing disclosure form being presented, yes.
Stephen M. Smith, who's not here today, Giselle Johnson Banks,
Yes, approved.
Hunter Thomas,
In favor.
thank you. Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
a vote has been concluded.
Is Wade still with us?
Oh, hello?
No, Wade dropped off a few moments ago, Mr. Brown.
I see.
So question that, we just did the pilot. Do we need to do a vote on the bond resolution now?
No, on the bond resolution, I think, according to Mr. Nephew, I have to first go back and open up for public comment, as well as make a statement for the public to, well, it's a few steps. For the first, we'll tackle the public trust and have any petitions that the public may have, that they would submit those for this bond resolution. So I guess I'll open it up as we're talking about the resolution for the sale of the bonds for any public comment, and strictly pertaining to the public trust law, that the public would make the comment or submit a petition regarding this resolution for the sale of the bonds for the Christopher Park project. I think there was something else, Mr. Nephew, after that I would have to tackle. If you can remind me of those steps that besides the public trust.
Okay, that would be the tougher public hearing on the tax code. But that can follow a vote on the sale resolution. That doesn't require it be conducted before the sale resolution. So complete the public hearing on the public trust. If no petition or comments are submitted, vote on the sale resolution, and then open up a public hearing under the tax code. And if no one has comments, or if they have comments, just take the minutes and close it up after the comments are made.
And Naj, are you able to help me with any public comments? You know, I only see the screen that I see on this side. So I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything as we continue to move.
Yes, sir. Elizabeth, there's no public comment so far.
Correct. No public comments at this time.
Thank you.
And Ms. Brown, Jade, if you can help me, is there, Mr. Neville, is there a time stamp or what is my
on the public trust? On the public trust, you
correct.
Acknowledge no public comments, no petition, move on to the sale.
Okay.
Yeah. And Chair Chase, just so you know, Wayne and his team already put out a notice that's required by law. So those who, you know, could have objected or wish to object, his team sent out a notice in advance to indicate that should they have such objection, they would make it at this meeting. So to Wayne's point, you can, because you haven't received any comment, you can close the public hearing for these purposes.
Okay, good. So we're going to close the public hearing on the public trust, seeing that we had no public comment or petition. Next, we're going to open up the public for the public hearing for the tax codes. Najan, if you can let me know if you hear any public comments or petitions, please let me know.
Will do.
Or Miss Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, do we have any public comments on the tax code?
No public comments at this time.
Thank you.
Hearing none, we're going to close the public hearing regarding the tax codes. Was that the last two, I believe? Then we can move on to entertain a motion.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to open the floor back up to the fellow board members. I'll entertain a motion of approval.
I move for approval, Mr. Chairman of the bond chair.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask Wayne. Wayne, I'm pretty sure, but you'd have to correct me. Do you also need a roll call for your resolution?
For the resolution, that's the sale resolution?
Yeah.
Just a normal vote. If you look at the members present, who votes aye, who votes nay, and who's absent.
Okay, so you don't need a roll call. Okay, so I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, just wanted to make sure.
Okay, thank you. There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay.
Aye.
Hearing none, motion carries. Next on the, I think that was the, we're gonna be moving down. What's the one,
So we have 3 pilots, H3C Brown's Dairy, and we'll be handling these individually because we have a summary as well as a resolution. We'll also do the same for Growth Place and the Reveal. So the first step is H3C Brown's Dairy, and I'm going to share with you 1 second. Our dashboard. Derek, why don't you go ahead and lead us through this?
Thank you, Naj. And board, if it's your pleasure, I'd like to go through the summary for the H3C project that we're seeing today, that we brought before you today. So for the project, we are requesting approval of a pilot transaction. The initial pilot is the $32,567. And the total closing costs, including the pilot, legal fee, and closing fees, would be a sum of $185,000 and $185,948. Excuse me. And for this project, H3C, which otherwise can be known as Health, Community, Culture, and Commerce, is an innovative $77 million urban development that is proposed to co-locate healthcare providers and public health researchers alongside the residents of 192-unit mixed-income housing development on Aretha Castle Haley Boulevard in New Orleans. The development includes 2 buildings with complementary programming containing 192 mixed-income apartments, totaling 210,000 square feet of residential space for households earning between 20% to 120% AMI. As well, it will include 39,150 square feet of commercial space anchored by 2 leading nonprofit organizations, the Louisiana Public Health Institute and the Data Center. And as you can see, there are 2 addresses here. So 1300 to 1328 Aretha Castle Haley Boulevard. That will include 100 apartments, 5% of those permanent supportive housing, 40% for households earning below 60% AMI, and 51% earning below 80% AMI. And that building would also have 8,100 square feet of ground floor storefront space. At 1801 Talia Street, there'll be 92 apartments.
Yeah.
Yes. That board member Brown.
Thalia Street.
Thalia. Excuse me. So 92 apartments on Thalia Street, 1801 Thalia Street, 5% permanent supportive housing, 40% for households earning below 6% AMI, and 51% below 80% AMI. The development team for this project is GCHP and Olympic Community Development. GCHP is an experienced developer that was established early in 2006 after Hurricane Katrina and Rita devastated communities throughout the region. And that brought together this development company, GCHP, that has done several projects, is very experienced from the due diligence that we've done on our end. And then for Olympic Community Development, they are known for building equitable partnerships with mission-driven organizations to bring impactful investments to underserved neighborhoods. That's shown through the previous project that they helped with that we've actually approved through our pilot program, the McDonough 19 project that we've seen last year that received approval from the board. In terms of financials, we did look at the debt service coverage ratio, which is our main indicator for health of a project, financial health. And with that, we've seen that they do have debt service coverage that does meet our threshold, which is between 1.1 to 1.4, which is the ratio that we use to calculate that health. In terms of the feasibility study, it was recommended that the proposed project is considered financially feasible based on the assumptions detailed in the report summary, supporting information and schedules. And we do consider this project feasible and that the board approved. Thank you, board.
Before you now is a resolution to approve.
I have a couple of questions, not questions, but comments. Again, on this project, I'm requesting the closing disclosure form on the transaction. My second question to you, sir, is how much is the unit per, how much are the units, not the commercial units cost? And the second question to follow that up is how much is the per square footage cost?
Thank you, Board Member Brown, for that question. So we do have the total cost here at 402,000 per unit, 402,600.
400, did you say 402?
Yes, but
okay.
And
that's affordable? That's affordable? You quoted before affordable housing?
So what we have here on the summary, I believe, is including the commercial space.
Mm-hmm. I see.
And that would result in that higher number at the $402,655 unit.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Brown, just we have the developers on the line as well, if the board would like to hear from them. But this particular project is in what a lot of our developers are calling difficult areas. The costs are going up. This is a mixed-use project as well. So this is a little different than some of the other projects we've done where it's been pretty much housing, 100% housing almost. But this particular deal is a mixed-use concept. There's some institutions involved. So there was a bit of some specialized development going on. But this is an ongoing theme with development in New Orleans, the high cost per unit, the high cost of development. I think it varies per project. It's an issue that we're dealing with. The Louisiana Housing Corporation, every year they put out a QAP, and this is an issue every year for New Orleans. So it's something that we have to keep working on. But in short, we've gone through the checks and balances on this particular project to make sure that although it is a higher cost per unit, a higher cost of development, that it's a quality project and it will add value to the community.
I'd like to hear from the developer, please.
Hello, my name is David Harms. I'm the Senior Project Manager with Gulf Coast Housing Partnership. And I think Jonathan Light, our development partner with Olympic, may be on the line as well.
Yes,
Okay.
Afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
So, this is Jonathan Light. I could just speak briefly to that, is that I believe that $400,000 number does include commercial space. So that number would come down a bit. And then also to address, yes, this is 100% affordable development. And as Damon noted, construction, everyone knows construction costs are incredibly elevated at the moment. And so everyone is dealing with those mitigating factors.
Mm-hmm. Can you comment, sir, on the diversity of the project? Is there any diversity? We encourage you, as myself, as one board member, to diversify your projects. I live in that neighborhood. I don't live that very far from there, and I know the area very well because I'm a block and a half off St. Charles. Can you tell me if there's some diversity on that project?
Yeah, we're in accordance with the 35% DBE goal from some of the City of New Orleans funding, as well as the Finance New Orleans funding that's provided to the project. We're still in the subcontractor procurement phase on the construction side on that piece. In terms of professionals, Wayne Nevue is serving as our bond counsel. And I don't know that we've compiled a report on that, so there may be others that I'm missing.
Okay, very good. So you anticipate bonds, a private placement bond?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. So there's bond counsel. Is there co-bond counsel? Just wanted to ask the question.
The bonds are being issued by the Louisiana Housing Corporation. That was a requirement of some of the CDBG funding that they provided. So unfortunately, we weren't able to issue the bonds through Finance New Orleans.
I see. Okay. That's the only question I had, Mr. Chairman.
I did want to note one item. I know that there were, like any project with this level of complexity, a lot of rounds of underwriting and correspondence back and forth. My understanding from our last conversation was that we were looking at an initial pilot payment of $29,124. So I just want to make sure that the approval is coming through at the same figures that were ultimately underwritten.
You're anticipating that on an annual basis?
Yeah, that was the initial payment, and then it was escalating, I believe, by 2% per year.
I did a projection earlier to the board, and I wanted to know if I was correct. You intend to use low-income housing tax credit as 4%?
We do, yes.
And you anticipate using the pilot to bring around roughly 10% of the assessed value by the assessor that we have here in New Orleans, right?
The staff can probably speak more directly to how that payment was sized. I believe it was sized as a percentage of the current assessment.
I see. So it's roughly about 14% of a cash equivalent down payment, which is significant for a commercial project, whether or not it be mixed use or single family. So we're conscious of that. And as I said, we encourage you to diversify these resources, especially in that particular neighborhood.
Yes, sir. I mean, I think as two organizations kind of founded with community development goals, that's one of our aims for the project as well. We want this to be something that benefits the community beyond just the 192 households that have an opportunity to live there.
Very good.
Yeah, Mr. Brown, just to clarify, Mr. Harms was correct in terms of the pilot pricing. It was set at the current taxes. It's actually 120% of where the current taxes are. And that's based on our pilot policy.
I see. It's good. 120%. Oh, more than 10%, 12.
And then I don't know if you were able to catch in the synopsis of the project, but in addition to the affordable housing, there's a federally qualified health center that will certainly be serving the entire community and beyond, not just residents of the project.
It's good. Much needed. There's no Flint Goodrich.
Are there any other questions from the board for the developers of this project?
No.
Well, if there are no other questions, I think that's it on the discussion, correct, Damon? We can entertain a motion.
Yes.
So moved, Mr. Chairman, that we approve the H3C Barone Dairy project for approval. Of course, again, requesting the closing disclosure form, 5-page document for myself.
There's a motion.
Another board members.
And
go ahead.
I'm sorry. H3C Brown's Dairy.
Correct. Yes.
And Dietrich, can we get some just help with the procedure right here? I know we have to do a roll call vote again. So is the motion appropriate or do we jump into the vote?
Was it second?
Yeah, I second. Giselle.
Oh, sorry, Giselle.
Okay.
Dietrich, you're muted.
Yes, I'm sorry. Tacking on to what Jade said before, for all of the pilots coming up individually, there should be roll call votes.
Okay, thank you.
Right, so there's a motion. It's been second. Can we have the roll call, Elizabeth or Naj?
Yes.
Thank you.
Edgar Chase the fourth,
Yes, approve.
Andronika Morris,
Yes.
G. Wade Wooten,
Ask something, so we're approving it. Are we approving anything above and beyond that as far as Damon is authorized to do X, Y, and Z?
That's included in the actual resolution, Wade, so it is
Okay.
covered.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I approve. Yay.
Charles Brown,
Approve. Charles H.
Giselle
Brown.
Johnson Banks,
Yay.
Hunter Thomas, and Stephen
vote
Smith.
in favor.
Thank you. Stephen Smith is absent. Thank you.
Well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
The next summary we will be
Mr. Chairman.
presenting is Grove
Chairman.
Place.
Yes, Board Member Brown.
I'm gonna have to leave. I'm sorry, but we still have a quorum with Wooten back. Thank you very much. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay.
Night.
Naj, I think you were moving on to the Grove Place resolution.
Yes. Well, first there's
Oh,
a summary.
pilot.
And then there's the resolution. Derek?
Thank you, Naj. And Naj, will you or the team share the summary for Grove Place?
It should be up on the screen. Do you see it?
It's not showing for me.
Okay, I'll try it again. You see it now?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Naj.
Welcome.
All right, thank you again, Board, for letting us present the Grove Place project. So this project is requesting approval of a pilot. So the initial pilot that we've calculated is at $10,879 for this project. With closing, including the legal fees, closing fees, will total at $63,490. Summarize, the Grove Place is situated on the square city block at the corner of Earhart and Monroe Street. The land makes up a total of 1.8 acres. The amenities include a community green space, a central community building, off-street parking, on-site security, Wi-Fi, and water management features. And this Grove Place project is located within the Holly Grove neighborhood. The land has approximately 360 feet of frontage on Earhart Boulevard. And Grove Place is a 100% affordable 32-unit rehabilitation project in the Holly Grove neighborhood, with 19 of those units reserved for permanent support housing, 11 at 20% AMI and 8 at 30% AMI. The project was approved for an affordable housing plan development zoning designation for C1 general commercial and HURD2 historic urban 2-family residential district by City Council on June 17th of 2021. Grove Place has been conditionally awarded $3 million in home funds from the City of New Orleans. This project also aligns with the city's place-based strategy as outlined by the City of New Orleans 2017 to 2021 Consolidated Plan. It is anticipated that construction on the project will commence within 1 month of the delivery of their bonds. Assuming the schedule is met, the total project will be completed in approximately 12 months after construction commences. NOLA Restoration Properties is the developer on this project. NOLA RP is a fourth-generation full-service real estate development company with 100 years of combined experience, specializing in historic property restorations, and is a historic tax credit specialist. NORP has completed over 125 property renovations and construction since Hurricane Katrina and is managing 39 commercial and residential properties. In terms of our financials for the pilot calculation, we do want to note that the developer did request a reduced payment pilot, for this project. And this is requested from developers if the pilot that they would be quoted at would still make their projects not financially feasible. And we did find this through our underwriting. Without the pilot, that debt service coverage would not meet the range that we outlined for developments. So without the pilot, they would be at 1.04, which is under our 1.04. Sorry, it's at 1.04, which is under our 1.10 mark that we look for. So with that reduced payment pilot, that would bring them within our debt service coverage ratio that we look for, that range within we look for our projects. And with that, we do deem this project financially feasible based on the assumptions detailed in report summary, supporting information and schedules, and we do recommend consideration for board approval. Thank you. Do we have any questions about the Grove Place project from the board?
I have one. Do any of the units involve rentals, or is it all to be purchased?
Yes, so the entire project is rental units.
I mean, Damon, I guess we could talk offline, but I mean, I'll chat with you offline.
I do have one question, Derek. The bedroom mix, I think it's wrong. In fact, I know it's wrong. Right? It doesn't add up to. Does it add to 32? No. Does it? Yes. It's just throwing me off the way you guys had it formatted. Yes, 32. Never mind. Sorry. And I did want to thank you guys for doing this for everybody. I mean, we were talking about this in the program committee, but this is exactly what we were talking about. I think it's helping people stay centered on the questions about the project. It's an easy reference guide. So thank you guys for getting this done.
You're welcome.
Before you now, we have a resolution for Grove Place.
Mr. Chair, I move that the resolution be adopted. Don't everybody rush the second. No, oh,
I was asking for a second. I'm sorry, I was on mute.
Second.
I think we have to do another roll call on this one as well, correct?
Yes. Edgar Chase the fourth.
Yes, aye.
Andronika Morris.
Aye.
Jiwei Wooten.
Aye.
Charles Brown had to leave. Stephen Smith is absent. Giselle Johnson Banks. Giselle. Hunter Thomas.
Aye.
We'll circle back to Giselle again. Ms. Banks?
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm sorry, I'm here. I had to step away for a second. Are we voting on this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, approved, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nash. The approval of the growth, and I think we're moving on to our, let me get that up. The last one is the reveal.
Correct. The summary is before you. Derek, please walk us through the summary.
Yes, thank you, Naj. Thank you, board members again. So we're coming before you requesting the approval of a pilot for the Reveal project. Initial pilot payment is scheduled at $15,497. The total closing costs, including that initial pilot, legal fee closing costs will total to $117,124. In summary, the Reveal is a 150-unit service-intensive housing community targeting special needs households, including the disabled and single-parent families, and deliver flexible, responsive, and individualized services that meet the varying needs and choices of the residents. The Reveal will have an on-stall care coordinator to assist residents with transportation scheduling, community events, after-school care, and supportive service appointments. A robust supportive service program and a 24-hour on-site security will enhance the quality of life and empower residents with knowledge through community-wide events and trainings that focus on independence, self-sufficiency skills, and financial management. As stated before, the on-stall care coordinator will assist with the transportation scheduling, community events, after-school care, supportive service appointments. In addition to the resident services, an extensive fitness center with attached physical therapy room, as well as an on-site medical clinic equipped for visiting doctors is available for use. An additional benefit to Reveal residents is priority access to the on-site business incubator, a space where entrepreneurs are able to take targeted financial trainings, work with attorneys on business organization and other legal documents, and maintain a private supply locker while sharing in conference room space, office phone lines, and commercial printers. More than 20% of the units are Section 504 accessible, and 6% of the units are available for large families. That's 3 and 4 bedroom units. There's also a meditation pond with walking trail on site, as well as an accessible and visitable playground. The new construction development is utilizing LIHTC and CDBG money and offers modern conveniences in 2 energy efficient 4-story elevator buildings. In terms of the development team, in 2020, Commonwealth was named the best affordable housing developer by USA by Build. Additionally, in 2020, Commonwealth was ranked the 12th largest affordable developer in the nation by Affordable Housing Finance, which is determined by experience and portfolio numbers. So this is a very experienced developer, and they provided several projects that they've done over the 20-year period that they've been in business. The financials provided by developers and 2 of its principals, and the financial strength of the corporation and principals are strong. The corporation has a positive equity position, and the principals have a combined net worth of $120 million. In terms of the financials for the project, we did find that the project was well within our debt service coverage ratio range. And so with that, we do find that the proposed project is considered financially feasible based on the assumptions detailed in the report summary, supporting information and schedules. We do recommend consideration for board approval. Thank you. Do we have any questions from the board about the Reveal project?
So from the board's perspective, and consistent with our mission, the motivating factors for supporting this are or what? Just so we can expressly underscore it. Is it we're getting property back into commerce?
Well, Wade, if I may, from staff's perspective, over the years, we've broadened our mission to include affordable housing, economic development, and most recently, climate resilience. So we've casted a wider net as it relates to program development. So in our new business model, and we're going to get into this more at the upcoming retreat, but under our new business model, we have sustainable home ownership, we have sustainable development, and we also have resilient infrastructure. So the projects that we're seeing today fall within our sustainable development category. There's a great deal of pent up demand for affordable units in New Orleans. Also, the economics of New Orleans households has not improved over the last 20 years. It's actually getting worse, especially when you look at inflation and what it's starting to do, and the cost of living and the lack of availability of jobs starting to show in all of our cities. So there is a great need for this type of affordable housing. However, to your concern, is are we also promoting home ownership? And the answer is yes. That is what our Green Mortgage Program is about. That program has been launched. We've closed only a handful of green mortgages so far. However, we're looking forward to pushing that program more heavily next year to the community as well as to developers. And that's something that we didn't focus on before, which was connecting developers to our home ownership program. So for example, any one of these developers could turn these projects into home ownership projects and still utilize Finance New Orleans program. So we are working on those types of projects. The fact of the matter is these deals that you're seeing, they've been in the queue for a very long time. The city has been trying to close them for some time. So we're one of the missing pieces in that equation. You heard Hannah on the line earlier. We're working with Nora as well. So we've been building a system where we're working together as housing and development agencies. And the top priority right now has been to get affordable units developed, create some jobs, get some construction activity going in some of these neighborhoods. And some of these projects are mixed use. Like the last one we saw, it involves an institution, a health and wellness institution that's bringing care and services to that surrounding community. So I understand what you're saying, but I just want to let you know that we are working on home ownership projects of scale. We have the Green Mortgage Program available. We're going to start pushing that out to the community. And then also, a lot of this is going to depend on federal funding. We need federal dollars and federal policies to be in place in order for us to do some of this work. And here's what I mean by that. The deals you're seeing now are mainly being financed with low-income housing tax credits and tax-exempt bonds. Those are the main federal contributions to this type of project. Well, there isn't the same kind of thing for single-family housing. There's now some new programs that are coming about that are going to aid single-family development that are going to mirror this multifamily tax credit program that's been around for many years. There isn't one for home ownership. So that is also a piece that we need to be in place so that we can make this more affordable and that developers choose home ownership projects as well as they're choosing rental projects. And then it's the economic aspect of New Orleans. We need better jobs. We need to increase our education. We need to give our people more opportunities for growth. We got a lot of issues that we got to figure out in New Orleans. So until that happens, that home ownership piece is going to lag the rental side for now, but we're still pushing it forward.
Okay, yeah, and I understand, we've expanded our powers over the years, our authority, and let's say we have 10 items. I mean, we don't have to check off the box for each project, all 10 boxes. I'm just trying to seek clarification. I appreciate it. That was a good explanation as far as this project and how it ties into our mission and our objectives. Thank you.
No problem at all.
I wanted to ask I should have asked it before because Mr. Brown wasn't here. maybe we can get this written up in the summary and sent to everyone. What's the developer, is this developer also agreeing? Well, this developer can't because the project's ready to go, but is there any opportunity to talk about DBE involvement or anything like that other than the professionals who are working on this part of the deal?
I mean, I do notice that there's DB certifications for certain aspects of the activity. I mean, not my area of expertise. I mean, it looks like they try to weave it in.
Trustee Morris, this is Jade. I want to make sure I'm understanding your question. Are you just asking about DBE goals and participation on the project post-closing, you mean, or are you talking about
well, I mean, again, this project is already under construction, is already close to the end of construction. So I think it would be good to know, did they have any of those requirements and did they meet them, as we are preparing to give them, you know, quite a substantial investment. And again, just find out what happened if they didn't. Again, I'm trying to channel Commissioner Brown, so.
Yeah. So you're right. This project is a little bit different than most projects in terms of where it is in its point in time. Of course, our lease agreement will reflect the DBE goals, reflective of the 35% that we latch on to the city for going forward post-closing. We can certainly request from them what levels of participation they've achieved, perhaps for some other program that they've participated in.
But and also for the construction of this project, the rehab of this project, because it's going to be difficult. I mean, again, it's not impossible for them to meet a 35% goal moving forward, but they're going to have a fixed amount of contractors. They're going to have a property manager and lawyers and things like that. So that's going to make it very difficult for them unless the property manager is a minority. Then that'll get them there. But they're ready to open, so they have selected their property manager, and so we're going to have a goal that they're unlikely to hit. And so I think it would be helpful if we could say during the construction phase they did X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, we'll certainly request that information of what they've done past performance-wise. And again, we'll make sure that we have a clear understanding of what whatever projections they might have for the work going forward and what those goals what reasonably look like for the work that's still ahead.
And
thank you.
Board Member Morris, a note on the process here. Most of these deals that we're seeing, including the ones today, they get funding from the city, and that inherent to that funding from the city are the DBE requirements, and then the requirements that we have as a part of the pilot agreement. But we're working with the city on that ongoing maintenance process, like I mentioned to you earlier, since these projects are going to be under our guidance or management for the next 40 years. So over that time frame, there will be joint asset management, if you will, between Finance New Orleans and the city. And then in some cases,
Right, but again, when you're talking about goals at this part of a project, the opportunity for real minority participation is in construction,
sure,
not in property management and some maintenance. But it's going to be very difficult for them to get to 35% unless, just given what grass cutting costs and things like that, when the contracts that they're going to have to have are going to be management contracts, and depending on who they select. So that's why it would be helpful, since they got city funds, to see how they did with meeting those city funds. Meaning that they got city funds, how did they do with meeting that requirement during construction?
Understood.
Chairwoman Morris and board, or board member Morris and board, if I can interject. They did submit their DBE documentation. They did have 30% participation by minority women DBE subcontractors on the project.
Gotcha. So they just came in a little, the goal is 35% for the city?
Yes,
Okay, so they came in a little under. Thank you.
you're welcome.
All right, if there are no comments.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll second it.
Been moved in
Thank
second.
you.
Roll call.
Edgar Chase, support.
Yes, approve.
Andronika Morris,
Aye.
Jiwei Wu-Tan,
Aye.
Charles Brown, he left. Stephen Smith is absent. Giselle Johnson Banks, Hunter Thomas,
I vote in favor.
okay, did we lose Miss Banks? I believe we lost her. Yep. All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you all. I think here we can move on to the Finance and Investments Committee presentation. And that's Mr. Wooten or Mr. Badger.
Was the resolution approved?
Yeah, you did a roll call, didn't you?
Yes.
Yes, and it was seconded, yes.
So unanimous approval. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me.
So we still have quorum, right?
Yes, yes, we do.
Okay.
Bear with me 1 second. Okay, so I guess if I don't see the information that I'm going to be talking about, somebody could, I guess, share their screen.
The dashboard.
Yes, please. Naj, you're on mute.
I'm on mute as well. Sorry, y'all. You able to pull it up for us, Naj?
Yes, it should be on
I
your
see it,
screen.
thank you.
Thanks, Naj. Appreciate it. You could, I guess, scroll down a little bit, please. Let's see. Okay, so let's see. Looks like page 5 and 6 is the focus. Sorry, thank you. Let's see. So focusing first on the U.S., global recovery continues despite supply chain disruptions we're seeing. Core inflation is up 4% year over year. The most recent figure is coming in at 5.4%. So you can see a trend, mainly driven by food and energy prices. Cost of living adjustment for Social Security was announced last week, with benefits rising 5.9% for 2022, which is the largest increase we've observed since 1982. Incoming inflation data continues to support the case for the Fed to taper its asset purchases. Looking at September retail sales report, it showed a 14.3% year-over-year increase in retail spending, reflecting the ongoing rebound in the economy. Initial jobless claims fell last week to 293,000, the first reading below 300,000 since March of 20. And the 1.2 trillion with the T infrastructure bill and roughly 2.2 trillion Build Back Better Act remains under negotiations with only a few days remaining to get the deal done before the targeted October 31st deadline. So it's 6 days. With turning to rates, bond rates increased during the month. The U.S. Treasury, 10-year Treasury yield increased by 17 basis points to 1.51 month over month and climbed to its highest point since June. Municipal bond yields also increased. The yield curve with as compared to the 10-year AAA increasing by 24 basis points, and then mortgage rates follow that upward trajectory as well, due to inflationary pressures and prospects of a tightening monetary market. Locally, turning to the local situation here, New Orleans, the unemployment rate decreased to 9% in August from 10.3 in July, but again, it's still up from, actually, no, it's not up. It was 12.9% in August 2020. So it's actually down actually pretty well from a year ago, 12.9% versus 9%. Rolling to page 7, please, the financial status report. Again, as of or through September 21, year to date. So page 7 is a comprehensive view of our year-to-date revenues and expenses. Overall revenues year-to-date were 101,000 versus a budgeted 301,000. Why is that? The shortfall is driven primarily by multifamily income. Did not close on any pilot or bond projects during the month, but we have several moving through the approval process, as obviously we've seen today, which may close before the year end. Turning to the expense side, we're favorable to budget by 291,000 year to date, with actual expenses at 1.3 million versus the budgeted amount of 1.6 million. And again, that's we're actually primarily favorable across the board in all categories, which is good. Turning to page 8, this page provides the 13-month trend of revenues and expenses, and both revenues and expenses for the month were in line with year-to-date averages, with expenses coming in slightly higher than the prior month. Page 9 is the balance sheet year-on-year comparison. And again, it's consistent, nothing really material to report. Page 10 reflects Pathways revenues and expenses. Year-to-date total revenues is 2,000. Expenses were 34,000. Page 11, cash and cash equivalents at the month's end. There were 9.8 million at September, which is lower by 150,000 versus the prior month at 9.9 million. So that said, that kind of concludes the report. Are there questions, comments, observations for Byron? Okay, thank you. I yield the floor.
Thanks, Wade. So if there's no questions on the market update and the financial status report, I'll move into the preliminary draft of the budget. I think Nas and team, y'all had it up there a little while ago, but for the board, we've started the budget planning and development process for next year. So that's currently underway. I wanted to share with you what was shared at the Finance and Investments Committee last week. This is a preliminary budget. It's also known as the first pass of the budget. So it's really just based on some preliminary assumptions and the internal discussions I've had with the leadership team. We generally adopt the budget in December of each year. So you will have a few opportunities to see the budget, make comments, make recommendations, before then. We're not voting on anything today, but there will be an updated version provided at the board retreat, along with some long-term cash flow looks at the overall business, as well as a break-even analysis that was actually recommended from Committee Chair Wooten and Mr. Brown at our Finance and Investments Committee. So I think that will, it was a great recommendation because I think that will provide or show a bigger picture of how our revenues will scale with these programs and kind of help catch up with expenses. And we can see that kind of, instead of going into reserves, we'll see that number instead of going up or staying stagnant, go down as we scale up. So these numbers will probably move, of course, as we go through this budget process. But for today, I just wanted to kind of provide an overview of this preliminary budget. This report has a couple of different columns. The first column is the the current year's budget. The second column is an estimate of where I'm projecting we'll end the year. Then there's an estimate versus the budget column. And then in that black box, there's the proposed first pass of the budget for FY22, and then $1 and a percentage variance to the current year's budget. So, so looking at this report and just looking at the top of the house, the revenue line, looking at the end of the year toward the 2021, we forecasting out to be favorable by roughly 45,000, and that's driven by that multifamily income line. I know throughout the year it's been, we've been kind of under budget, but a lot of that's based on timing of these projects. And as you can see, we have 4 going through the process right now for approval. We did close on 1 earlier in the year. So that number in that multifamily line is based on the closing of 5 pilots. So that 355,000. It also includes the recurring revenue that we received from the 2 that we closed last year. And so this provides one snapshot, of course, but as we look at the long-term projections, we'll see how that number revs up as we go through the years. But just wanted to point out, this is based on closing 5 pilots this year. And that'll be the driver for getting us, over the budget line. We're fairly in line with the single family program income, a little bit short there. That's essentially just origination fees, the small fees that were received there. There's some scalability there, but that, tends to come a couple of years down the line. And once again, that'll be shown in the long-term projections. And then we have a miss on the other revenue, and that's primarily related to the interest that we receive on our accounts, and that's driven by just interest rates being lower. The other revenue that flows through that line is our lease revenue that comes from our Barone Street location. And then looking over, still on the income side, looking into the 2022 budget, just based on conversations and looking at where we think we would land in terms of number of pilots on the multifamily side. And I'm pointing to that because that's pretty much the bread and butter there going into next year. We're budgeting at least 7 pilots for next year. And that's where that 542,000 line, revenue line shows there. On the single family line, there is an increase there because we are starting to rev up in our green mortgage program, as Damon mentioned earlier. And then there's some opportunities that we're talking through on the renovation side of that program that may include some more revenue. So this is the first pass, but we're still investigating that. And there may be some more revenues that we can forecast out on that single family side. And then the other revenue, our tenants have moved out of the Barone Street location, so we won't have that revenue coming in. So that small piece there is just interest income from our accounts, and forecasting a slight increase in interest rates going into the latter part of next year. So overall, when looking at the 2022 budget versus the current year budget, revenues are increasing by roughly 214,000. Based on the estimate that we're looking at, going into the end of this year. Then looking at the expense side, we budgeted on the expense side 2.3 this year. We also budgeted to, pull 1.9 from reserves. We've been favorable. We've been reporting that on a month-to-month basis. So we're estimating to land somewhere around 2.1, and basically on a reserve side, 1.6 instead of that 1.9. So we've been very conservative on the expense side. Of course, a lot of that has been delayed because of COVID, but a lot of we haven't really fully launched some of these programs. But despite we still have started generating some revenue in that sustainable developer core services area. So favorability overall on the expense side, looking at the budget going into 2022, Overall, being as conservative as we can be right now, overall expenses are pushing them down about 5%, mostly in all the line items. The only two that we have an increase right now is the utilities line, and then we have the capital expenditures line, which is primarily tied to the CRM system that we want to put in place to kind of help as we get these programs launched. We're really working manually right now, but we need a system that will allow us to fully allow for a better communication, capture of data, capture of reporting, not just on our, single family and multifamily programs, but holistically that connects all our systems together. So we've been in touch and having conversations with a lot of CRM providers, and that number or increase is just based on what we're seeing from a cost standpoint there. But still, overall, like I said, just overall, it's lower than the prior year's budget. So, I just wanted to give the board a look at the preliminary budget. Like I mentioned, we will be I'll be going through a more detailed look at the budget as well as long-term projections, and then we can also look at what's the break-even point. And what's not mentioned is we're aggressively looking at low-cost funding, particularly grants. We're in conversations right now with investors. We're working with Quantified. We have a pipeline of investors that we're talking to bring in some grant dollars. So that will help plug that gap. So this is just current look without even incorporating those grant dollars or that low cost funding that we're aiming at. So so I wanted to present that to you. Any questions or any comments? If there's any other analysis that the board would like to see as we go into the board retreat, I welcome any suggestions, and I could put that together as well.
Yeah, no, thank you, Byron. This is Doug. Just one quick thing. Just looking at it, the consultant and professional service line. I know we went up to the, I guess, estimate. You said we'll come in at 345, but then in 2022 we gone back down to 234. And as we continue to grow and map up, is that savings, or will that one get back up to, I guess, the 3 range? On that,
yeah.
So what's creating those savings?
Yeah, well, so the idea is to go into next year more conservative. We have, we brought on additional bodies, and we want to be able to, as we get these programs launched, wean ourselves off of some of these consultants, right? You see, there's an overage in the consultant line for this year. And there was some HR consultant services that was a critical need that we did not include in the budget. So that provided that overage for this year. And so that is not included in the budget going into next year. So that kind of helped, bring that line down. But we've also scaled back certain consultants that we know that we might not need as much, as we're working with them on the front end and get these, scale these programs up. We may not need them, as much. So that's what that comes from.
Gotcha. No, thank you. And that makes sense. And then the last one would be on the marketing and advertising line. I know in 2021, I guess mid-year, we were rolling out the green mortgage program, as well as all these other pilot programs, and getting that word or that verbiage out. And we're estimating to come in at 87. I guess another 20 or 30 grand will bring us to the 110. But is that enough as we bring that 150 down to really go out in the market and promote the green mortgage, or that's already moving like we feel it can with the additional 30 or from the 87?
Yeah, so once again, we're trying to be as conservative as we can. And, this is the first iteration and we're still having those discussions. But at the same time, we have started expensing some of those marketing dollars this year. So the thought process on that line item is that, let's carve out what we've expensed and start there. But as we continue to have the conversations, it may be that, we may need to, move that line up. But in this first iteration, the idea was just to look at, there's a couple of different ways, to look at the budget. You can start at zero. You can start at, where we're estimating the land at the end of the year. We can, look at strategic priorities. So a lot of those are being factored, but this first iteration is just, hey, we know we've expensed some of these marketing dollars, so let's take that out and start there.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, so one of the things that we talked about that I don't think we ever really saw was a budget to project the changes around personnel to make sure we would stay on track. Luckily we came in under, but we did want to see that budget. We did want to see that forecasted out earlier. So I would really like, I know we're having our retreat coming up. I'd like us to spend some time talking about the structure of the organization. Are there any more hirings that need to be done in the coming year? Are there any, any gaps, anything that, Damon, that you guys think that you'll need as far as personnel is considered and things like that. And so that we can make sure that you guys have everything you need.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
All right, if there's no other comments, that's all I had.
All right, if there's no other comments for the Finance and Investment Committees, we will move on to you, Vice Chair Morris, with the Programs Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to try and move a little faster so that we can wrap up. So we're getting the dashboard up here. As soon as we can get that, we will get going.
Can you guys see my screen?
Dan? All right. All right, so first up, we have got the Community Support Fund. So the staff is moving forward with focusing on helping folks with their utility bills and making sure that that, and as a way of recruiting some more people potentially, hopefully, for the green mortgage product. So there's been one utility payment so far since September of 2021. The Own New Orleans program, which is basically decommissioned, is decommissioned, and it's been replaced by the Green Mortgage Program, which was activated in June of this year. So we've had one closing for $206,000 in September of 2021. As a reminder for everyone, these programs, the closings that we've had so far while under the Green Mortgage Program don't take advantage of the full scope and the scope of the Green Mortgage Program, but we're hoping that the staff will be able to find some homeowners or property owners who are going to need help with doing those extensive rehabs, particularly now as we're dealing with things like the skyrocketing price of natural gas. So we want to keep that moving. And then the Sustainable Developer Pipeline, 53 projects. We didn't update these numbers based on where we are today, right, guys? Because we should have some of these get to further along because of the activity that the board took today. But right now there are 18 active projects pending, and the majority are trying to do pilots. And so this is just the breakdown of where all the projects are, and just a summary of everything but broken out by district and things like that, so you can keep going, Naj. Of the Community Support Fund. You can just advance it. It's not, yeah, there we go. On New Orleans, which is discontinued, advance. Sustainable developers of the 53 projects, the 18 pending, advance. This is a breakdown of everything in the pipeline that's coming. So pretty good distribution, but most of the projects are in B and E, and District B and District E. Advance. And one question that you did, somebody asked a question about this, the percentage of home ownership. As you can see, the active projects are home ownership. We might want to break this down by unit type, because I don't think this is, if you break it down by project, it shows this majority home ownership, but not if you do the unit breakdown. And then the affordable units, where we can see how the projects are so affordable, which is great. Advance, that was the last. I think this is the last one for this. And again, I wanted to thank the staff. One of the things that we talked about, and Damon, we're going to want to talk about this a little bit more in program committee and make sure that we're on it. We have been talking about the pipeline and making sure that we're managing things so that the programs committee gets the deals a full month before the full board. That didn't happen with the 3 pilot deals today. And there's a lot to review, a lot of questions, and we want to make sure that we can get through them. So we really do need to hold fast to getting these projects in front of program committee a month in advance, and making sure that we can, in fact, review them, ask questions, and then bring them back to the board for approval the next month. Now, we know with what happened with Christopher Holmes, but that's a project that we've been active and paying attention to, and we knew it was going to need to move a little differently. But I want to say I would have liked to see the reveal and the other 2 projects that we saw today actually move the way we intended to. So we're going to work with you guys, but we do need to make sure that we have an advance notice. I do appreciate you guys creating that summary, because I think that was important to getting through the discussion today, was to be able to people, many of whom the board members have only seen those projects inside of the pipeline chart. And so we need to make sure that that the program committee can speak to them. The developers being here, that's fine, but we want to make sure that we are, that we know what's coming down the pipe and what's going to need to move when. So, but again, thank you guys for that. I'm so excited that we moved 4 projects forward today. The staff are to be commended for this kind of progress, and I'm so proud and so excited to see Finance New Orleans taking its rightful place back inside the housing market. This is something personally that I have been so glad to be a part of and wanting this agency to do, because it's going to help change New Orleans for the better. So, Mr. Chair, I'm turning it back over to you, unless anybody's got any questions. Sorry. And Commissioner Johnson Banks, if you want to add something as well. Oh, she's still gone? Okay, I thought she'd come back. Well, if anybody has time tomorrow, she's going to kill me for this, but if anybody has time tomorrow, y'all might want to check out channel 54 at 5:30 tomorrow. I believe a family we know will be on Family Feud tomorrow.
Great.
I love family.
Well, thank you, Vice Chairwoman Morris. And I'm just going to reiterate what you said. You know, I'm excited to see these projects moving forward. Just today, I think without Christopher Park, you know, you talk about the units that's going to be affected. It's about 374, just shy of 400 units. You have many more in the pipeline. So, you know, Damon and staff and everybody else we're moving with our mission, man. You all are getting it, and I'm excited to be a part of this and continuing that the Finance Authority's role in this city and making sure affordable housing, affordable units will be here for the foreseeable future and beyond. So thank you all. With that, Damon, we're going to move on to your report, the executive management report.
Thank you, board members, and we appreciate the comments. We're happy to serve. And I would like to shout out the staff because they have picked up a lot of the work that we've had in our pipeline for the last few years. We brought on a lot of new people this year. We have a few people that have been with us for going into 2 years now. So we have a good team of people that are committed every day, and they show up to serve the city unselfishly. So I want to recognize them for all of the work that they've put in up to this point. We got a lot of work. We got a lot more to do. We have a long way to go, and we'll talk about it in our retreat, a long way to become sustainable as an organization. So we still have to keep building, but this is a great milestone, and we appreciate the vote of confidence. In terms of the management report, just a few highlights going on this month. We talked about the deals that we closed today, or that we approved today. That's going to make a total of 5 for us this year, assuming all of those close by year end. And going forward, we're targeting 10 deals per year. You saw the pipeline a moment ago. That's an aggressive target, considering we weren't doing any of these deals just a few years ago. But we think this is what the city needs, and at least for some time, we need at least 10 affordable housing projects to move forward every year that are going to need public finance. So we won't be involved in every single project, but we do think we can play a valuable role and help stimulate and accelerate more development in the city. We're still working on our fine-tuning our strategic plan and Resilient New Orleans finance plan. I will be spending time with the boards of the other members of the Resilient New Orleans finance plan, which include all of our public agencies, local public agencies that have a vested interest in public finance and using public finance to stimulate resilience throughout New Orleans. So the other agencies are engaged. Some don't need our help to present to the board because they feel like they're that engaged and they're in lockstep with us. Others still want more exposure for their board. So we're going to do that in the next few months. But so far, everything has been positive. And again, we estimate a greater bit of capital needs moving ahead. We're trying to create a $1 billion impact. So that's going to require us to bring in some external capital to help stimulate those goals. Mr. Badger mentioned a little while ago that we're going after some low-cost funding and some grant dollars. We're also starting our conversations with the bond market. The bond market has evolved over the last few years, so there are different types of investors out there. They're impact investors, they're more traditional investors, but even those more traditional investors are becoming more impact-oriented. So we're starting to re-announce ourselves to the capital markets so that we can achieve that $1 billion investment goal. And then we also postponed our investor webinar that we were going to hold in November. We've postponed that to April. We're looking forward to doing that event in person. We're still going to do some things for the remainder of the year to get in front of investors, local investors in particular. But in April, we're looking forward to hosting the market at wide. So we're going to be talking to a lot of investment funds, commercial banks, foundations, other types of impact investors that have an interest in not just Finance New Orleans, but the City of New Orleans, the Regional Transit Authority, the Housing Authority, all of our other agencies that are out there trying to make a difference. So we're going to bring the market to New Orleans, and we're looking forward to that. Next slide, please. Brief update on our strategic plan items. I mentioned these a moment ago, but we're focused on fundraising. We're focused on launching our programs or even scaling our programs. We've launched a few, but again, we're at the beginning stages. So even with the Sustainable Developer Program, with the number of deals we did today, there's still some work that has to be done on the green mortgage side as well. And we're looking forward to launching the Resilient Infrastructure and Innovation programs going into next year. Next slide, please. And an updated scoreboard. I've adjusted the scoreboard to reflect our new programming And as you can see, we've closed 4 green mortgages this year. As of now, we don't have any multifamily mortgage originations until today with the, at least a conduit bond issue with Christopher Home, for the Christopher Home project. And then also the 4 multifamily pilot originations that we did today to bring us to a total of 5 for the year. We did 2 last year. So these numbers are reflective of where we are, but we're going to try to keep trending up. We're going to keep investing in the programs. We've had some good momentum so far, just with the community, the response to the market, and all the consultants that we use. That's a good checkpoint for us. So far, we're on the right track. We just got to keep pouring gasoline on the fire. And that concludes my presentation for today. Are there any questions from the board?
Hearing no questions, I'm gonna keep on moving. There's no executive session, no other business. Do we have any public comment out there?
No public comments at this time.
All right, I guess we're getting to the end unless we have any other meetings, any discussion. I'll take a motion for adjournment. I guess we want to stay put, so let's keep talking. Any motion for adjournment?
So moved for adjournment. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find my unmute button.
All right, it's been moved and properly second. Well, this has been a highly successful meeting and we got a lot done. I know it took a while, so thanks for everybody in there for hanging in. But like I said, you all are moving in the right direction. What we did today will impact just shy of 400 units. So let's look forward to our board retreat and our next board meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
Congrats, everyone.